Hey, how are you? It's Dr. D. We are getting our technical stuff in order just for a moment, as we always do when we start a new stream. And let's see if we can get this to show up on the world's most fun platform, LinkedIn. There it is, LinkedIn Live. Okay,
how are you? It's Dr. D. We are getting our technical
showing
stuff
up.
in
Hold
order
on.
just for a moment, as we always do when we start a new stream.
There, I think we got it now. Cheryl, if you're listening, talk to me on the Word doc, on the Google Doc. How we doing? It's good. One sec, everyone. All good. Mic working. No issues there. Is that correct? All right. Let's see if people start showing up. Says I am live. I'm not sure exactly if this is happening or not. There seems to be a glitch on LinkedIn. Give me just 1 second. Hey, there we go. It's flowing. And I see all of your little faces start to show up. Hey, how are you? Thomas, what's happening? Elvira, what's going on? Hey, Cheryl, how are you? Fernando, what's going on? It makes me happy. I don't think you could plan this. You really do have to give a lot of props to our friends at LinkedIn. They've created a platform that, to say the very least, is global. Unbelievable how many countries show up each and every time we do one of these. I'm doing well. How are you? I'm a little stressed. In case you don't know this, I live in a place called Houston, Texas. I mean, has 2020 been strange enough for you? Come on. We have, hey, a deal from Dubai. How are you, man? We see so many strange things. And the pandemic, by the way, is just one of them. There are so many strange things happening right now. Hey, Ronnie, how are you? Good to see you, man. We've got the pandemic, of course, and we could talk forever about that. But on top of that, you've got all kinds of things happening around the world. You've got fires in California that just drive me crazy. I know so many people out there that are affected by that, and it breaks my heart every day. And I was just trying to process the other day, and then I watched the weather report. Bam! Houston, apparently in the next few hours, is going to start receiving some serious wind and rain. Okay. All of that, I'm not trying to cry in my beer, as they say. I just want to remind everyone, yeah, I hear you. I'm with you. This is a strange year. Hey, let's see if we can help each other just a little bit, which really is the focus. Mike is working. Hey, thanks. That really is the focus of today's session. I was thinking about, well, what do I do to be helpful? And sometimes I get a little selfish and I think, all right, what do I do to be helpful to me too? So the topic hit my brain, confession. Let's talk about that. Hey, I'll start with a confession. Here's one that might surprise you just a little bit. I don't love doing live streaming. Do you believe me? I really don't. I've been measured on personality tests many times. I am as much introverted or a little more than I am extroverted. So I have built the skill, a little pocket, a little space where I go, whether it's on stage in a hallway conversation at the grocery store or live streaming with you, where I have built a character that I love, that a lot of people enjoy, which makes me happy. And I'd let go and somehow it works. But then when I'm done, I'm tired and I'm stressed out. It's not my natural state. I don't love it. Sometimes I really enjoy it. Sometimes it's kind of work. I confess that to you. Why? Well, first of all, confession relates to my work and my long-term focus on authenticity, which if you've been following me, is one of the things I love to talk about because it's important and it's interesting and it's beneficial and we don't do it enough. So confession's kind of related. The idea is that we all carry all kinds of stuff inside, in here, private, on the down low. No one needs to know. We don't talk about it. We don't act like it's real. It's a burden. It creeps up. It makes us feel weird about ourselves. It comes in many, many shapes and sizes, many, many flavors as well. I know this. You know this. The question is, why are you always holding on to it so passionately, like it doesn't exist, like it makes you less of a person? Listen, I am talking, sometimes I talk about really just life at work, leadership teams, etc. Sometimes I go into topics that very clearly are about life, not just leadership. This is one of those. I really think that this quick chat is about you and all of your key relationships. That's your wife, your partner, your kids, your neighbor, your family, and your team, your boss, your vendors, everything at work as well. The idea of confessing. It's interesting. We all act like we're so perfect, which is hilarious because we're so colorfully imperfect. I know I'm leading the way here. So let's think about why we need to do this more and how to do it effectively, because I'll bet you it's something you will enjoy more than you could have ever expected, and it will help you build bridges in a way that just might surprise you. Hey to everybody joining us. Sandy, how you doing? Elvira, Elvia, thank you, Elvia, says the camera's a little out of focus. Well, let's see if I can wipe this joker for you just a little bit here. It is an automatic, allegedly high-tech, useful camera. I don't know if that's going to work. I hope it does. Mike's working. Sandy. Omia, hey, how are you? Amina, how are you from Tunisia? It's amazing to me how this continues to grow and spread. All right, back to our friend this week, confession. We know that people who are religious understand this idea. We know that our friends who are police understand this idea. I want you, as a normal, walking around planet Earth professional, I want you to understand it as well. Very, very interesting. Less posturing, more authenticity. We're going to get specific here. I don't want people ranting and raving too much to strangers and to their loved ones about their confessions. Having said that, there's a happy medium I want you to shoot for. Okay. So what are the benefits? This is the biggest. Are you ready? Burden lifted. Think about it. If you're with me, I'm not looking in the notes. By the way, if you want to make comments and questions, please do. I'm going to try to answer some questions in a minute for anyone who has them. Don't take this time to use this space to confess anything, but please do laugh and realize that you need to find a space and a time to do just that, even if it's not publicly as a part of this live stream. But, you know, I have to tell you, the number one benefit is burden lifted. That is to say, we all carry around with us this reality that we think is just too imperfect to share, and we can't let people see it, and so we suppress it. Here's the thing. To suppress it and keep it inside actually requires energy. You have finite energy. I have finite energy. And when we waste it on kind of unnecessary suppression of human stuff that probably could be talked about far more therapeutically, far more productively, well, that's not a good use of a very limited amount of energy that we have. Let that burden go. It's just a beautiful thing. If you've been there in a marriage or friendship with your boss, if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. You finally say the thing you didn't think you could say, you clear the air, you talk through it and process it, and you feel lighter, you feel better. That is a priceless feeling. It really is. It's there for you all the time, and yet we don't do it terribly often. Number one, burden lifted. Increased trust is number two. People will look at you as more authentic, there's that word again, and more trustworthy because you're being a little more, well, honest about the human things that we all go through. You don't have to lead by only projecting confidence and competence. That's a big part of it. That's useful. That has to be kept in check and tempered and balanced by also being human. And one of the best ways to be a little more raw, unfiltered, authentic, and human is to confess some of the realities, whether it's a thought, a doubt, a feeling, a mistake, a decision you regret. Who knows what it might be? They come in many shapes and sizes, but on average, not always, but on average, letting more of it out instead of containing it with lots of effort tends to be the productive response. It also, frankly, and this is huge, validates others, because when you show a little of your humanity, for example, confessing how you're feeling, why you did what you did, why you're thinking the way you're thinking, it makes others go, you know what, I'm not alone. You know what, I'm not strange. You know what, it's not just me. That is a gift that you're giving people who are busy and stressed and want to feel a little more adjusted and normal. That's a gift that you're giving them by being smart enough, brave enough, wise enough to let a little bit more out and confess some of these things we normally suppress as a matter of course. Now, here's the big part. There will then be reciprocation. Once you put people in a place where they understand who you are a little more fully, respect who you are as a human, not just a professional, they tend to reciprocate more. Now, I'm not trying to get all of you to create therapy circles at work. I honestly think that sitting around and talking marginally more is absolutely useful, and you should strive for that. I'm not saying every day we got to have 2 hours of holding hands and singing Kumbaya and admitting our imperfections. I am saying that our standard response of never doing that is wrong. So let's think a little more broadly, maybe, about how we can do that. Look at these. Hey, Paula, how are you? From Chile, how are you? Another one from Tunisia and Iran. Musa, how are you, sir? Man, great to see these people. Some are new, some are recurring. Every single one of you, like me, has things to confess. I started by confessing some of my concerns. Hey, here's another confession. You ready? I'm trying to get you to embrace this, so I've got to do it for you. I am in the middle of writing and creating a whole bunch of new courses. Every year for the next several years, I'll be putting out a lot of new material. I'm very excited about that. I'm also nervous. I'm trying to think bigger than ever about how it might help people, where I might offer it, and what topics to choose, how to write it, what's the brand stand for? Question marks everywhere. Most of the time, that makes me feel exhilarated. A lot of the time, that makes me feel anxiety. And I need you to know that because I'm human. As much as I love to try and add value to other people, and I'm grateful I get to do that, the truth is, I'm human. Sometimes that feels difficult and heavy to say. Sometimes, well, it's just funny. It's just funny. We all share this. We don't share enough, but man, do we share that as human beings. So you've got to find the right time for you to do it as well. What is it that you've been sitting on? What is it? Maybe you'd feel a whole lot lighter if you, just like I'm trying today, would confess. I don't know what it is. I can't answer that for you. So let's talk about what that means to do it correctly. All right, timing and frequency. Let's start with frequency. You can't do it never. That is the most common response by far. You can't do it never, and you can't do it all the time. Let's think about that. Hey, Carlos, what's happening? Venezuela, good to see you. Let's think about that issue of frequency for just a minute. Confession is useful in the ways I'm alleging. There's just no doubt about that. But if you never do it, you don't get the benefits. Most people think I can't let them see that I'm human. That means I'm wrong. No, that means you're imperfect. Sometimes you're even frail. So what? That's human. That's normal. Strength in a team is about reciprocity and rapport. That comes from understanding we're all facing things together, which is why letting out more of these human realities actually builds rapport and builds trust, makes a team stronger. But no, you can't avoid it full time. You just can't. Now, the flip of that is equally interesting. You can't do it all the time. I talk about authenticity a lot to be just a little more general. You can't just remove the filter, say whatever you want, whenever you want, and say to yourself, isn't it great that I'm being authentic? I'm being straight with them. I'm being honest. Well, no, you do have to respect the nature of the social context you're in. Every person has a different tolerance for moving towards a little more authenticity, a little more humanity than you, a different tolerance than you, some higher, some lower. Every group is different. You've got to put a toe in the water and figure out what makes sense for frequency. I just want to remind you, never doesn't work. Every day doesn't work. Now let me give you a little nuance here. Every day in small amounts on small topics, that's actually kind of okay. Hey, you know what? I'm stressed out. I'm feeling the heat. That client is coming at us. They just keep micromanaging us, won't let us do the work and won't trust us, and it's driving me crazy. That's a tiny admission, one everyone else probably knows about. and can relate to. There's nothing really terribly dangerous about saying it. Now, don't dwell on it. Don't make that a 10 and 15 and 20-minute conversation. That is an one-off comment. It takes about 10 seconds. Don't dwell. It makes you normal, human, and frankly, a positive part of the group when you admit those types of things. Just don't dwell on it. Now, every day you can't do massive topics. I'm just not sure I have a love for this job anymore. I don't know if I even believe in what we do anymore. That's a confession, but that's big. And you do, I don't like saying this, but of course I have to. You do have to be very cautious and think deeply first before confessing very large issues, whether that's about a thought, a concern, a behavior, a decision, whatever it might be. You definitely want to be strategic and thoughtful and smart about what the likely impact is. Let's think about that. Number one, I've spent all this time today so far saying it's important. Here's what it is. Here's why you should do it. I've given you 2 or 3 of my own confessions. And so now I'll admit that before you do the bigger confessions, you do want to sit and think about the predictable impact of those confessions, those statements, those thoughts shared. Don't do it long. Just ask yourself, is this too big? How can I phrase this? How will they react? And how will I react to their reaction? Meaning, do I know how to stop when I need to? Do I know how to laugh at myself and move on when it's time to do that? That's great. Don't think too long about how this might go down. But this is like a caveat for the talk today. 4 larger confessions. Okay, definitely think about the impact. But in general, especially for smaller, normal human admissions, folks, you just want to dive in and you want to admit that. Hey, Kyle, how are you? Kyle says the most amazing program managers I've worked with can embrace their ability to say when they are in the struggle. Kyle, you're on the money. I know this just like you. Best leaders I've ever met are pretty comfortable, not universally always comfortable, but pretty comfortable admitting their humanity, letting it out, talking about it, building that capacity, which is the effect, in other people. And you know why this is so beautiful? It's not just, it's personal and on a selfish level, and it's also kind of selfish on a team level. What I mean by that is you're going to have that burden lifted feeling, that I can be more honest disposition, which really feels lighter, more nimble, more positive, more productive, more optimistic. But you're also helping others and you're also helping the team. Here's what we know about high-performing teams. They don't sit on things up here nearly as often or nearly as long as other lesser performing teams. They like candor. They like candor even more than civility. Now, if you've followed me for long, you've heard me say that many, many times. They like candor even more than civility. That candor might be about who knows what, a decision the team made yesterday that they don't feel comfortable with, a decision in front of us that they haven't really said their piece about just yet. A behavior they saw pop up, a doubt in their brain. Who knows what it is? There's a million things we might want to speak up about, but we censor, and some should be censored. Most shouldn't be. We should find the right time and place the right words to let them out so that conversation, so that learning, so that healing, so that rapport building can happen within a team. The best teams confess things all the time. It's just called being frank and giving candid feedback as needed. So on the one hand, it sounds heavy. Confess. On the other hand, it's not. And for strong teams, it's a normal part of giving candid in the moment as needed, useful, specific feedback. That really is all it's about. You giving feedback about you, what you did, what you're thinking about, how you're feeling. Let me say that again. What you did, behaviors, what you're saying, what you said, words, and how you're feeling. In fact, I'll give you a great free tip in this long string of free tips. You ready? One of the greatest things that you can confess to others in professional life or at home, doesn't matter, is about feelings. because feelings are often misunderstood. They make people, even if they get a little clarity, feel uncomfortable. We've not been trained as a species. This breaks my heart, but it gives us opportunity. We've not been trained to correctly think about, understand, embrace, and use emotions. That's why the world of emotional intelligence has become so popular, so useful. That's an opportunity for you, because when you think about confession specifically focused on emotions, you know what, everyone, we've been productive today. We've made progress. We've got it down to 3 options on this very big decision about who to hire. I like that, but I'm feeling some apprehension. I'm actually feeling a little uncertainty, and I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe I'll try and explain and then see where you are and how you're feeling. That's a tough, simple, with words and timing, simple, but tough admission or confession, because it's about uncertainty and it's about emotions that are causing that uncertainty. It's also the biggest blessing that you can give other people, because it validates the majority of them who are also experiencing those types of emotions. When you're big enough, when you are smart enough, when you're kind enough to confess some of those things going on in your brain between those ears, that makes you a human being with whom more conversation sounds like a good investment. That's why it's definitely worth your time. Great to see so many people. This is killing me. Lots of great comments. I would love to see, let me check here. As you know, I have a helper at all times with these efforts, and let's go over there. And I'm not sure it's still open. Questions?
Sounds like a good investment.
One sec. There we go. Okay, you can't talk about this topic without also addressing a very related, very necessary topic, which is, of course, apology. Sometimes a confession is about, hey, here's what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm going through. This is how I feel about the moment, that person, this situation, that opportunity, whatever it is. Sometimes a confession is about a thing you did, a thing you said. Dare I say that big word, a regret. Anytime you feel like you've got to get this off of your chest in a confession format, something you went through, did, really want to admit and own. I love that word. You know, I believe in owning your behaviors for better or for worse, because it makes you stronger. It makes you more honest. It builds rapport, even if it's difficult. You know, I got to tell you, sometimes it means you have to apologize. So let me ask you very briefly, do you know how to apologize? When's the last time you apologize? Now, let me make it hard on you. I'm not just talking about life at home with your kids, your spouse or partner, your neighbors, someone in your civic group, whatever it might be. That's a little easier. Not easy, but a little easier. Let's go to work for just a second. Think about your team. Think about your boss. Maybe you're the boss. Think about your team. When's the last time in that professional context you apologized? That's a very, very interesting question. Most people think that to apologize at work is an admission somehow of imperfection. That's a problem, of lack of competence. It's going to erode trust in me, etc. It's not true. If it's done horribly, meaning you don't know how to be brief, concise, honest, and own your language, or if it's done really frequently, yeah, it could undermine trust in you. Generally speaking, we avoid doing it so passionately that we've just doing it once in a while correctly is a very value-added thing. So how do you apologize correctly? Ideally, the time that elapses between whatever happened and you making the apology is small, not large. It needs to be more relevant in people's heads. It needs to be top of mind and fresh. That's useful. It also just makes you look like you're doing the second thing you need to do, which is to own the behavior. You're actually saying, I did this. This is on me. And that's important. You can't blame. We talk about blame a lot. You can't blame it all. You got to say, I know I was a big cause or the only cause of this thing that happened. And then you got to say what you're going to do. You know what? Here's what I'm going to do to make amends. And by the way, I want you to know why this happened. I really do. That's called an explanation. You should know this. If you have to give it an apology as a part of this bigger thing we're calling a confession, they don't have to love your explanation. They just have to believe it. Please hear me. for them to trust you, respect you, want to continue working with you, maybe even investing in you. They don't have to love your rationale all the time, your explanation in this case. They don't have to love it. They have to believe it. And when they believe it, that makes you a person with integrity who's trying to be transparent. That makes you a person worth working with that they can trust. So I want you to think finally about what the amends are. How will you make this right? What will you do? Sometimes confession, well, it's just about being honest for things that go through your mind, and there's no apology or amends necessary whatsoever. Sometimes, well, it's about something you did and you do need to apologize. I remember one of the biggest errors. This is probably a classic way to encapsulate everything that we're talking about. We make errors, right? I make them, you make them. I can remember one error. I was working for a very large consulting firm and I had a boss who told me, this is huge. I need you to take this package, and she handed it to me, and mail it to this client today before close of business so they can get it in the morning. This is huge. Lots of business on the line. Get it done. Don't forget. Are you good with that? I said, I got this. No problem. Easy peasy. And I forgot. I got busy during that day. No excuse, nothing complex or interesting. And I forgot, and I didn't mail it. And the next morning I'm sitting with her and the team over coffee, and she said, you do this? Did you do this? Hey, Todd, did you mail that package like I asked? And I turned white and I said, no, I forgot. I'm so sorry. And I started to shake, and I had to own it. I had to admit it because she put me on the spot. And I reflected on that later, and I thought to myself, we're not always given the opportunity. And that's what it was. As hard as it felt, that's what it was. To own it. That's a confession. And I had to do it. And later I went to her privately and did it properly and said, let me tell you why I did what I did, how it happened. Most importantly, here's the steps I'm taking to make sure that that type of error is not likely at all in the future because I did this. Thanks for bringing it to my attention, for holding me accountable. I'm sorry. That's very simple, but yet it feels so heavy. And so I'm going to kind of end where we started, which is this isn't a complex. It's actually easy. And yet, even though it's small and kind of looks easy, people find it so heavy and so difficult that the usual response is to never do it at all. You keep it bottled up. You don't admit it. You don't say it. And I'm here today to remind you, you're missing an opportunity to lighten your load. You're missing an opportunity to help others feel human just like you. You're missing an opportunity to help the team engage a higher level conversation because you have now modeled the way about what it means to be a little more authentic and own the situation, the good and the bad, which makes them want to do the same thing. Listen, the best things we've ever learned about optimizing you and optimizing the team do not cost a penny. They just require a little bravery. And if you're in a leadership position or otherwise have influence, that starts with you. Man, I went on a rant today. I hope you got something out of it. If you got a question or comment, I want you to please reach out on LinkedIn and send it to me. I'd love to try and respond to more than the ones I got to today. If we're not connected, we should be. Reach out on LinkedIn. Let's connect. And if it's been a while, man, go over to www.drdoit.com. Check out the content, the blog, sign up for the newsletter. I would love that. As usual, I have a whole lot of content I think you'll enjoy. I've got all kinds of projects coming down the pike, including some great video from a gig I did at the beginning of the pandemic in Sydney, Australia. Some little clips that I think you'll find interesting that we're working on right now. So watch social if you haven't seen it. Head over to Facebook, by the way. I don't mention that enough. I love Facebook. I kind of go personal and business over there. I'd love to see you and all your interesting little comments and pictures from your life over there as well. Until next time, if you're in Houston, man, I hope you stay safe. If you're anywhere else on this weird, interesting, lovely planet, I hope the pandemic isn't getting you down. Make the choice to find that silver lining, and I'll do my part as well the next time we're together. Thanks for being here. See ya.